33 years ago, my first child was born. Shmuel Chaim ben Moshe Alevi, Sam. He was a very sweet little baby. He was born on time. He came home with us from the hospital, but it became evident very quickly that he had some medical conditions, mostly a heart condition, that we didn't quite know what it was. With all the diagnostic tests that there were to do at that time, it was not really understood quite what was going on with his heart. He had some other medical conditions, but the heart was the biggest one. And after 4.5 months, it became evident that it was necessary for him to have open heart surgery. So the day of the surgery comes, we take him to the hospital, we say goodbye to him, we're praying for his well-being. And after many hours, the surgeon comes out to tell us that Sam's heart was not what they expected, that it was not consistent with life, and that Sam had died on the operating table. So I was 27 years old, and I was faced with death and loss and grief in a way that I'd never wished on anybody and never experienced ever in my whole life up until that point. Death happened to old people. It didn't happen to babies, and it certainly didn't happen to my baby. And I remember speaking with our rabbi during the Shiva. He was pontificating on why bad things happen to good people, none of which I could hear. I couldn't hear any of those teachings. What I wanted to know, what I was yearning to understand was, where did Sam go? I had taken care of him in life, and I needed to know that he was okay, that he didn't need me anymore, that my role as his mother here in this world, I had to let go of that role. I had to let him go. But I wanted to know where he was. You know, if your child goes on a trip, you want to know where they are. Are they happy? Are they healthy? Are they safe? Are they taken care of? I couldn't take care of him, but could I take care of him? Where was he? And that's the last 30-some years I've been absorbing teachings in the Jewish tradition about what happens when we die. And I have been comforted by some of the things that I've learned. So I'd like to share some of those things. So let's start with life. What is life? And we go back into our tradition, back to Genesis, where God creates man. He creates Adam and Eve, creates Adam from the dust of the earth. And he blows into Adam a soul, a living soul. And that's who we are. We're a body, physical, material, organic, made up of the earth, so to speak. And into this body, into this vessel, into this clothing is blown, continually being blown, the life force that comes from God, our soul. So we understand our soul has 5 different levels to it, which are all interconnected. The lower 3 of which are the nefesh, the life force that exists inside of our body, the ruach that then connects to the neshama, which is this breath of God, this part that's a little bit above our bodies perhaps, and it goes up back into God. So we understand, our tradition teaches, gives us a parable that God is like a proverbial glass blower, blowing into, the glass blower blows through a pipe into a molten glass blob at the end, and gives it life, gives it animation. And so too, God is blowing into us animation, blowing into us a soul, blowing into us something divine, something holy, something that is our soul, that is energy. And energy never dies, it never stops. So we talk about death, but death is a misnomer. It's the wrong term. We don't die, we don't stop, we don't end. We just change our manifestation of who we are. So life is considered a bridge from the time we're born until the time we die. We're born into this world. When we're born into this world, our soul becomes part of our bodies. We live through life. And then at the other end, the soul detaches from the body. This body and soul detach from each other. And the soul goes back into the heavenly realms. And the body goes back into the ground from where it came. That is, kosher burial is to put the body back in the ground like a seed. We plant the seeds in the ground and they become one. They disintegrate. They change form, waiting for the time when they'll sprout again, when there'll be a tree or a plant or whatever it is. So too, our bodies go into the ground. They become one with the earth, waiting for the time of Techiyat Ameting, of the resurrection of the day, where the body and soul will come back together and will live in a purified existence that's at the end of days. So the soul goes into the heavenly realms. And this journey that we're on, this bridge that we're on, is called life. Before we're born, there's a oral tradition that teaches us that our soul makes an oath to an angel that is teaching us all the wisdom of the world. All the Torah is being taught to us in utero. And we promise to be good and not evil when we come into the world. And that's something that we work on. We have a mission to be here. There's a reason why we're here. It's not fate. It's not happenstance. We're not an evolutionary from the monkeys. We are created by God, and we have a mission in this world to do. We have something to do. We might not know what it is. It might be a generic thing like be good or put more light into the world or be godly, but work on ourselves, improve ourselves, be more lined up with the divine and manifest divine, holy light into the world. That's what we have the potential to do by being in relationship with God, being in relationship with the Jewish people, and with ourselves. So our soul and a body composition in this world have work to do, have a mission to be on. And when our time is finished, we die, meaning that our soul detaches from its body. Death is merely a shedding of the garment of the body, allowing the soul to move into the higher realms. It is said that when the soul comes into this world before we're born, the soul is crying. The soul doesn't want to leave the heavenly spheres where it's basking in divine light. The soul doesn't want to leave there. And the soul is crying. Baby's born, we're all mazel tov, exciting, so happy, so happy. And then at the other end, when the soul leaves the body, there's a rejoicing the soul does because it's going back to be with God, going back to be in the spiritual realms. The soul is happy and the people are crying. The inverse. We cry because we have loss. We cry because we don't have the people we love in our lives to be with in a physical way. We cry, and grief is real. And grief is a manifestation of the love we have and the connection we have with the people that we lose. And death is part of our journey, of the soul. Jewish tradition does teach about reincarnation, about Gilgulim, that souls come around, maybe parts of souls come around to finish the work that they had to be on. And I really have come to believe that Sam was an old soul, as are we all, old souls coming around. And his work was finished after 4.5 months. Everything he came into the world to achieve, to rectify, was done after 4.5 months. And it was his time to move on. However hard that is for me to accept, there is some comfort in knowing that his little life was full and meaningful and ended at the right time. That was the right time for him to move on, for his soul to go back up. And there's a tradition the souls of babies are under the heavenly throne, whatever that means, learning Torah with God, whatever that means. But they're in a good place. So our soul is a piece of God. Our soul is blown into us by God. Our soul is here for a finite amount of time, tethered inside of its body. And when it's the right time, the body and soul separate. The soul goes up into heavenly realms and the body goes back into the ground from where it came, awaiting for that time. So our Jewish tradition teaches a lot about the stages of the soul leaving the body, which it has been in relationship for its whole lifetime. And between the death and the burial, the soul is hovering over the body. The soul is very concerned for its body. It wants to know what's happening to its body. It's very disorientated. Doesn't know quite what's going on, and it's watching its body. We know this also from near-death experiences where people are brought back to life, and they report many things that they can see from a disembodied soul's vantage point, looking down on their body. I work on the Chevra Kadisha, which is the group of people that prepare. Women prepare women for burial, men prepare men, but we prepare people for burial, and we're very aware of the soul in the room with us as we're preparing this body for burial. As we wash the body, as we clothe the body in the shrouds that everybody's buried in, and as we place them in their casket ready for burial the next day. So this is something that we are very, very, very aware of, the soul being in relationship to the body. At burial, the body begins its ascent into the heavenly realms. That's the next stage, and people sit shiva. They sit shiva, and there's a tradition also that the soul goes back and forth between the grave and the cemetery and the shiva home, that there's a going back and forth of the body between these two different places, that the body goes back and forth. And so people who are sitting shiva might be comforted knowing that their loved one is coming and is visiting and listening and hearing all the things that are being said about them in the shiva home. Then we have a 30-day period, Shloshim, which is another ascension of the soul. And then the 1 year period, the Yahrzeits and the Yiskas and all of these things that we, the living, do. We're still in relationship to the deceased. We still have our souls intertwined. We have bodies. We're still in this world, but our loved one is moving into the heavenly realms. And we get to, by what we do in this world, lift those souls higher and higher. When we do good deeds in their memory, when we learn Torah in their memory, when we give charity in their memory, when we do things that we learnt from them, when we continue to walk in this world, we're walking in their shoes, we give them care packages, we give them ascensions in the spiritual world. So I'm not sure if this is helpful, but these are some of the early lessons that I wanted to share, that the body and soul are what we are as a living in this material physical world. We're tethered together. The soul goes up in death. It's a birth. The kever, the word for kever in Hebrew, that grave, is also the word for a womb. It's the birth. We're birthing the soul into the next world. The soul leaves. It leaves in stages. And we who are the living get to continually help and move that soul up into the heavenly realms by how we function in this world. I have more to say about Chevra Kadisha. Maybe I'll do that in another video, and I have more to say, but that's perhaps a good start.